So in this video, we're going to be looking at the forklift module. So this is a module we have to learn how to run a forklift, and there's a variety of different exercises that are available for that machine, 5 in total. And I have currently loaded up the first exercise, which is a freeform exercise where you can pick up various objects in the order you desire around the yard. So I'm currently in the machine, and we can see that I have on the middle screen here a prompt that's telling me what exercise I'm going to be doing and what type of work I'm going to be doing. More specifically, I'm going to be picking up various objects, moving them around as I desire, and it is currently set to end after an hour of work. So I'm going to clear that message, and now I'm in the cab of the vehicle. And so to my right, I'm going to have, in this case, a physical switch that I'm going to use to start up my engine. Now, on the Advantage system with motion, we can actually hear the rumble of the engine as we're running the machine. And so now, if I just start to test out my controls here, any good lift operator would first make sure that his machine is running correctly as he starts a work shift. So I'm just making sure that my hydraulics are working correctly, everything is going up and down as it should. I also have then my tilt control and my side shift. A few particularities of this equipment that we've modeled in as well is, since in real life the operator can typically kind of look over to the side to try to see what's happening, while in the simulator you do have a function here where you can tilt your head and look over to one side or the other, and then you can always just go back to the center. But we also have a function where you can actually make the mast semi-transparent. So now the mast in front of me, I can partly see through it, and that gives me a better view of the blades that I have in front of the machine. Another feature of this machine is that we also have the ability to display extra lengths to the forks at the front of the machine. So these blue extensions are not going to hit anything, but they can help me see better how I'm aligned, and especially for beginning operators, this can really help them be able to move around the environment and be able to get a good feel for how the machine works. So for now, I'm just going to hide these, and I'm going to make my mast solid again. And so then, using the lever on the left side here, I'm going to start driving around. So I want to go and pick up a pallet that's going to be over here in front of me. Now, what you're seeing in the top left corner of the screen is a 3D view that is coming from the instructor station. So it's not something I'm seeing here as the operator, but it's something that the instructor seated at the secondary station that we have here is able to see and is able to control. So the instructor at any point in time can, using a gamepad, move around that viewpoint and be able to see what the trainee is doing from any angle during the simulation. Now, it might look a little funny for a machine like the forklift not to have an operator in the seat, but that's just the fact that here we're the operator in the seat, and so that's just representing the machine that we're controlling. So I'm going to keep going and line myself up with this pallet at the same time that I'm just slowly lifting my forks. When I get to the right angle and the right height, I'm just going to go in. Now I can see very clearly a lot of details from my view. So I can see shadows hitting the blades. I can see basically as the blades are getting deeper and deeper under that pallet, while I'm seeing where the shadows are. And so that's part of what can help guide me in this environment to know that I'm getting closer. I can also see the shadows of my entire grill that I have at the front of the lift. And so as that's getting closer and closer to the pallets as well, that's also things that are helping me really be able to understand where I am in the environment. Now, these specific pallets are a little bit shorter than the length of the blades. So if I go kind of all the way in and hit the grill against the material that I'm going to be picking up, my forks are going to be so long that they're going to actually lift a little bit the pallet in front of it, the second pallet on that stack. So I want to be careful not to do that. And so here I'm going to go and lift this up. And so actually in the 3D view, you might be able to see that I am actually lifting that second pallet. So that's not what I want to do. So I did go just a bit too far. So I'm going to reverse just a bit. And so when I go in reverse, I actually get a reverse camera that appears in the front screen that shows me what's behind me. Uh, it's also possible to have an optional screen behind the simulator that would give you a rear view where you could actually look behind over your shoulder and be able to look behind you. Now let me do this again. I'm going to lift this pallet. So now I can see the other pallet afterwards. I can see it clearly. I did not pick it up. So I'm able to lift it properly. I'm going to just tilt it back a bit and then go in reverse. Now once I've cleared, I'm going to lower this back down. Now, of course, at this point, I might want to do this forwards or backwards. If I have an instructor present with me who can act as my signal person, then I could do this going forward, and he could give me some indications as to where I'm going to go. If I'm doing this on my own, well, then I'm going to do this in reverse. So I could go in and be able to look behind me in my 3D view, and then be able to go in and bring this over to the truck. Now, we've put a lot of obstacles near that truck, so there's actually a bunch of big stacks of wood that are on the side. So I want to make sure I don't hit these as I'm backing up. And so I can start to see the bed of the truck on which I want to deliver this pallet on my left side. So I'm going to go in and lift this back up, and then go back into forward view, forward drive, I should say. So go back in forward drive, go over the truck. Oops, and I just hit that truck and I felt it. So if you saw a bit, the whole seat shook me. And so all of these, any kind of sudden movement of the machine comes through in the seat. So as you're operating, you're feeling it in the seat. Whether you're driving a bit too hard, whether you're hitting things, you're going to feel all those movements in the seat as you run it. So I brought back my mast to be straight, and now I'm going to just get back. There we go. Making sure there's nothing behind me. And then going over to pick up another pallet. Now, so in this specific freeform exercise, as I mentioned, there's a number of things you can do. These big stacks of wood that were on my right, I can pick any of these up, but I have to be very centered. Let me just show you where they are. So any of these stacks of wood on my right, I can pick up. And so I do need to be very well centered on one of these stacks of wood to be able to pick it up, because otherwise it could actually tilt over if the center of gravity is not properly centered on the machine. I can pick up any of these pallets and put them either on the truck, or I can also deliver them inside the containers that are behind. So those containers can actually kind of feel like a van, a truck van, or a container, but you're going in a much more closed space, and there's even a bit of a bump as you get into the container, and so you're learning how to deal with those types of environments. Other things we have in this scenario, let me go back in forward drive. You'll see we have a little bit of an obstacle course. So there's various barrels that are here on the ground in front of me. And so I can practice going between these barrels and be able to do it and follow kind of a slalom course, not hitting any of those barrels as I'm operating. At the back here, we have some racking. So all these rackings on top of them have various pallets, some full, some empty. And so you can practice picking up these pallets and moving them around the work site. So picking them up from one shelf, putting them up on another shelf, and the racking are dynamic. So if you hit those racking, they could fall over. So you really want to make sure that you're properly operating the equipment as you're moving different lift objects around in this scene. Now, as I'm running the equipment, again, things that are coming through in the motion system, as I accelerate, I feel the seat that's going back. As I slow down, I'm going to feel the seat that's going to dip forward. So all of this adds to the realism of the simulation that you actually feel how the equipment is running as the operator is going through and running that equipment. Now, if the operator was to have a heavy load and have his forks way high, or even on empty, if he has his forks at max height, you could actually tip the machine over. And so let me give it a try to do that. So I am now going to look at tipping of the machine over, just to show you that it does consider height of the mast, mass that is actually on the machine. All of this is being considered in the simulation. So I've already picked up a pallet, and so I'm going to lift it way up high. So I can see, first of all, it's not centered, so it's a little bit over to the side. So that's not going to help me to begin with, that I'm going to be a bit more, I'm going to have an uneven load. And then I'm going to bring this all the way up, or high enough. And then I've put my vehicle at the top gear, and I'm going to start moving forward. So now I'm going to go over. And so now I'm just going to do a bit of a quick turn, and now I've just slammed the whole thing on the ground. So my seat is now tilted over to the side. The machine obviously has fallen over to its side, but you can quickly learn how moving around with a load at a high point can very easily tip the machine over, even if you're not going at incredible speeds. So what we'll take a look at now is the instructor station that accompanies our simulators. On that station, the instructor has two main screens that he can use to be able to monitor the progress of the students and be able to control the environment and introduce faults into the simulation. So this station has two monitors, keyboard, mouse, and gamepad. The instructor at any point in time during the simulation can use the gamepad to be able to move the viewpoint around and be able to see what the trainee is doing in the simulation. So you can see on the left screen that I have a 3D view. I can see the machine that's being simulated and the loads that are being moved around. On the right-hand side, we have all the controls that the instructor has for the simulator. So the first page that I'm looking at currently is the page where I could select the exercises that the trainee would perform. Right now I have the freeform exercise that's loaded. That's an exercise where the trainee can pick up any of the loads around the worksite and move them around in any order. We also have some other exercises that have more specific tasks that need to be performed. So the skills challenge is going to have you go through a slalom course through some cones as you go and you pick up a load and move it around. The aluminum small pallet exercise is going to have these very short pallets that you need to pick up very precisely and move to either a container or over to a truck bed. The plastic bag pallet exercise is going to have you pick up these larger pallets full of plastic bags and either move them to a container or a truck as well. And in the lumber exercise is going to have you specifically move large pallets of lumber. And so these are very large loads that you need to pick up very precisely in the center so that their weight is properly balanced on the machine as you go and pick those up and put them over on the truck bed. Now, the other sections that we have for the instructor station, we have the dashboard here, which is where you can get metrics about the simulation. So in this case, I would have data about, for example, how long it's taken me to perform the tasks, how many cycles I've completed during the exercise, what's the current wind heading, what's my score. So we also have, not only do we have here a score that's assigned, but we have a section here called scoring. And so in the scoring section, what we're going to see is we're going to have a number of data metrics that are going to be gathered to give a grade to the student. Now here we're seeing that we've lost points because we've traveled with the mast too high. So we're keeping look at what is the current mast height as we're traveling and moving around. But we've also traveled with a fork height that was too low. So it was too close to the ground. So there is that middle ground there for a forklift as to where you want your forks to be. If we had touched any humans, we would have lost all of our points. So that would have been an automatic failure. Now, this scoring system, this scoring page can actually be customized. So you can go in there and either adjust the deductions that are going to be applied if these events occur, or you can even remove any of these parameters or add extra parameters to be considered as part of the scoring criteria for the exercise. Back under here, we're also going to have environmental controls. So you can add rain or snow. This is an outside exercise for the forklift. We could control the time of day, add wind into the exercise. We also have a fault section where you can either add elements or trigger faults into the machine. So having lights that don't work properly, having an engine malfunction appear on screen, and you need to have the operator realize that that turned on, or having workers go in the path and become obstacles uh, in the path of the trainee as he's running the equipment. In the operator control section, we're going to have a replica of the control panel that is located on the touchscreen that the student has access to, so that you can see what he's doing at any given point in time from the instructor station and be able to assess that he's doing the proper things and properly using the machine. Now, when we go in and stop the exercise, we're able to go in and generate a report. So I can go in here, generate report, and this will produce a report that is going to contain all of the information from both the dashboard and the scoring section. It's going to have, in this case, it just says guess, but it would have the name of the student, all of the different data about what the student did and why did he lose points, his score that he got, as well as the environmental conditions during the exercise. The teacher can also go in and be able to enter comments, so it's possible to enter a comment for the session as a whole, or also enter time-based comments. If we go back into the simulation, you can create what we call bookmarks, which are comments associated to specific points during the simulation that will also be exported to the report for the simulator. So that concludes the section on the forklift module that we offer here at CM Labs.